Good morning. My name's Tom. I come to you from the Rustic log cabin in Northern Maine. Welcome to my cabin this morning. Come on in, have a cup of coffee. I am literally hugging the wood stove this morning. It is 5 below zero. When I got up this morning, the cabin was 20 degrees. So I put the coffee on, got a fire built. We're warmed up now. We're up to 60 up here. So probably about 40 down here, and down by my feet, it's still 5 below zero. But today's video, I want to talk about things that I do here at the cabin because I have to do them. And if you're thinking about building a cabin, which a lot of my viewers are, that's one of the reasons I believe that they follow my station or follow my channel, because of the cabin lifestyle. Well, there's a couple of things that you probably haven't thought of. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to help you think of them. As you can tell, I'm kind of in a mood. I'm happy. I love the cold. I love the fresh snow on the ground. The sun is coming out. These are the days that I live for, especially here at the cabin. But owning a cabin, especially, if you're only going to use it in the summer months, well, then some of your problems have gone away just like that. Here in the state of Maine, most of the cabins get used from that holiday in the spring. We'll say Memorial Day, but I don't think that's it. I think they're actually earlier than that. But anyways, Memorial Day weekend, they'll open them up through to Labor Day weekend. And then Labor Day weekend's like a giant vacuum in the state of Maine, and everybody is leaving because probably school, work, everything else. But anyways, Labor Day weekend in September, things just shut down, and people are going home, cabins are all shut down. But if you're like myself, and you build these cabins, and you use these cabins 12 months a year, 4 seasons, there's some things that you need to pay attention to. Maybe you thought of them, maybe you haven't. I have a generator here. I have a snowblower here. I do have the snowmobile and the 4-wheel and all that, but it's different equipment that helps me enjoy the country and helps me enjoy the ice fishing and all of that. But with these small engines comes a little bit of maintenance, which if you don't have them, then this video probably isn't for you. But for me it is. I don't have power, but I do have a generator. This whole cabin runs on propane. So in the wintertime, I really don't use the generator that much, but it still needs to be maintained. It's not a fancy one. It's not nothing spectacular about it at all, other than it's a really good generator and it runs really good. It's put out by Champion. I can't say enough good about those generators. I used them in the construction for building other cabins for people, and then I've had one here. This same generator has been here for 10 years and starts every time. I got a new smaller one now, a little suitcase one that I use for Beaver Creek. I mainly use them when I'm doing building projects, stuff like that, where I'm going to really have some electrical needs. And the other thing, the reason I have to maintain this generator in the wintertime is I have a John Deere tractor out here for dealing with the snow. But in order to make that thing start halfway decent, I have block heaters that I put on the side of the motor and on the oil pan. And then I plug them into the generator and let it run for about an hour. And the block heaters will heat up the motor. They'll heat up the oil that's in the oil pan, and the tractor starts just like it's the middle of summer. I have had somebody leave a comment, but I answered the comment and asked a couple more questions, but he never got back to me. Something about some kind of different oil that I could use in that John Deere tractor that would help in the wintertime starting. But like I said, he didn't get back to me, so I don't know the answer to what he was saying. I wish he had gotten back to me because it sounded like a really good point that would help me out. But anyways, it's a diesel motor, so I don't want to change the oil because I don't know that much about diesel, so I don't want to change the oil and then end up losing my motor over it. So that's why I keep that generator tip-top shape running. So I start that, then I can clean the driveway out, then I can come in. Or I can get up and take care of the snow, all of that. But with these small engines, how I deal with them, and I've been doing this since the beginning of time, it seems like, a fuel stabilizer. Now, some people say it's snake oil, some people say it's whatever. I swear by it. I swear by the Marine 360 stabilizer, fuel stabilizer. It's blue, it's in a jug. They have a pink one. I don't think that one works nearly as well as the Marine one does. So I don't bother with the pink fuel stabilizer. It's always the blue one, 360. And I have been putting that in for I don't know, 15 years, more. Since I went to that route, and I put it in, as soon as I buy my gasoline at the station, it's right in the truck. I put it in the jug immediately. No waiting. I don't wait until I get home. I don't wait until next week. And the reason I do that is I went to a small engine guy and I talked to him. Need to turn a little more. Sun keeps getting in my face. I went to a small engine guy that I've been doing business with since the early 80s. He's getting ready to retire, so I went in and picked his brain. And I wanted to know some questions. I told him I've had really good luck with this fuel stabilizer and wanted to know different questions about it. And he said the only thing he didn't say either way if it was good or bad, I don't know. But anyways, what he did say is you have to put it in as soon as you pump the gas. So that's what I've been doing. As soon as I pump the gas, I put it in. But before that, before I started adding fuel stabilizer, I mix my gasoline from my outboards. I mix it 50-1 for all of my outboards. And at the end of fishing season, for me, the end of fishing season, believe it or not, is about the middle of June. When the trout stop biting, then usually I move on to hunting stuff. But anyways, that leftover gasoline, usually I'll have 5, maybe 10 gallons of leftover boat gas that's been pre-mixed with this 50-1 oil ratio. I've always run that in my lawnmowers, chainsaws, everything that takes gasoline. Instead of letting that gas spoil, I run it through my motors. And I've had lawnmowers that I never touched for 20 years, and they ran great. So I'm thinking that in that 2-cycle engine oil there for outboards must have some of the same ingredients as this fuel stabilizer. And if you think about it, what oil does in an engine is coat the pistons, coat the rings. So by having the oil mixed into your gasoline, you're just helping it out a little more. Now, before you go down the road of, well, you're going to foul plugs, I can tell you right now, I have never, ever fouled a plug in a lawnmower or any engine that wasn't designed to run 50-1. Never. And I have been doing that with my gasoline for 30 years. 30 years, because I'm a cheap guy, don't want to waste it and don't want to spoil it. So before you go down there to foul and plug, that's what I thought too. I thought, well, the worst thing is going to happen is I'm going to foul a spark plug or two. Never happened. Never happened at all. So to me, it's a win-win, because what's happening is, like I said, I'm oiling my piston, I'm oiling the rings, the piston walls. I'm just giving it a little bit more lubrication in there. And I've had lawnmowers that went on forever and ever and ever, and it wasn't the motor that gave out, it was the lawnmower itself or different parts on the motor. You know, I had a couple lawnmowers, they had a bad run there of head gaskets. Couldn't keep a head gasket in one of them, saved my neck. So finally got rid of that lawnmower because changing head gaskets, I'm tired of doing that. I've got 2 reasons you should subscribe to this channel. The first one is you've clicked on one of my thumbnails. The second one is this channel is all about the great outdoors, the state of Maine. Everything that I do here at the Rustic off-grid cabin. The other thing, same way with my four-wheeler. I run the 50-to-1 through it, you know, the outboard gas. I'll run that through that. Same problem. The only you got to be careful with the Arctic Cat four-wheeler is because they do have plug problems. Like I said, I haven't fouled a plug because of the gas, but I have fouled plugs in that. So I keep plenty of plugs around for that, spark plugs. The snowblower, snowblower, I run that through. Same thing as the 360. And the snowmobile, again, and I've got my older snowmobiles, like I got an 89, I got a couple of them out here. They all have the oil injection. Well, because they're older, like 89, 85, and 86, I don't trust the oil injector. And plus all the dummy lights are broke now. So because I don't have any dummy lights, I automatically run 50-to-1 in them motors. They're getting extra oil now because I'm sure that the oil injectors are still working. I never can tell because there ain't no dummy light. So I run the 50-to-1. And same deal there. All that's happening is getting a little extra lubrication on the pistons and on everything. So that's a win-win. So maybe think about that when it come to your outboards and your small engines and all that. But definitely think about running the blue Marine Stabilizer 360. I can't say enough good about that because I went around this trip and started every motor, and some of them had been setting for the snowmobile been setting since last March, so that's a year. The generator had been setting for about 3 months, and the chainsaw had probably been setting for 6 months. So that's really bad for these engines to set like that because that's when your carburetors start to clog up and you start having your problem. And every one of these motors started, no issues at all. Like I said, I started the generator. I ran it for about an hour and a half just to get fresh gas in the carburetor. You want to make these engines run, you need to run them. And that's the only way to keep a small engine really running top. And I got outboards at home that I have just backups, and some of them set for 2 or 3 years before I'll start them. But same deal there, they start right up every time. When I put away an outboard, I run it out of gas first. I leave it on the boat, or I have a drum of water, and I run it out of gas, and then I choke it while it's still running, so that runs out of gas. And that seems to really help the outboards when it comes to that. So, anyways, that's a little, let's see, the snowmobile. I wish my snowmobile started as good as the 89 I've got. The 89's got a primer button on it. That thing, the 89 Skidoo sat for a year, and that started first pull with that primer button. I primed it 3 times, pulled the cord, and started first pull. I wish that my regular snowmobile now would start that easy, but it doesn't. What I do with that one, I don't even bother trying to start it the first time when it's sat like that. I don't pull a cord, I don't choke it, I don't nothing. I pull it out of the shop, and then I take the spark plugs out, and I have a soda bottle with a couple inches of gasoline in it in my trunk on the snowmobile. And I take the spark plugs out, and I pour a couple capfuls of gas down the spark plug holes. I put the spark plugs back in, finger tight, because I might have to do it a couple of times before I can make the snowmobile run on its own fuel system. And then by doing it that way, then I choke it, put my choke on, and then I turn the motor over. And then normally I might have to pull, I think this time I had to pull it twice. But I pull it twice, and then it fired. It wasn't ready to run on its own fuel system, so I pull the plugs out again, put in another cap or 2 of gas down the spark plug holes, and then fired it up again. And then that time it took, and that time it ran. But I went in to try to get a primer button for that snowmobile, and they said couldn't be done on that year. The only reason they did away with the primer buttons was because stupid people. You know, you prime it too much and then it's flooded. But boy, that primer button was the best thing Skidoo ever put on a snowmobile. So I'm gonna finish my coffee. I wanted to bring you guys along for a few minutes and let you know about my small engines here at the cabin. And if you're gonna build a cabin, you might want to think about some of this stuff when you got small engines kicking around the cabin. So have your coffee, and I'll see you next week.